Now let's get talking. The deadline for filing in annual tax returns for corporate organizations in Lagos is a crucial date that all employers of labor must be mindful of. This is why the Lagos State government, through the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service LIRS, has insisted that it's January 31st, 2024 deadline for all employees of labor employers of labor, to submit their annual tax returns is still sacrosanct. The deadline is in line with the taxable period for corporate organizations in Nigeria, which runs from January 1st to December 31st, with the actual tax returns being required to be filed within 5 months after the end of the accounting period, not later than 31st May. But what more do we need to know? We need to understand this better. To further discuss this, I'm being joined live in the studio by the Assistant Director, Relationship Management Unit at the LIRS, Mrs. Mojisola Aboyade-Kowu. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to first ask you, what does it mean when we're talking about these annual tax returns? And can you provide maybe a step-by-step tax filing process with the LIRS for businesses?
Okay, for tax returns, we are actually talking about the payee returns that employers deduct from the employees.
Yes.
So that is pay as you earn. So what we expect is that a schedule would be generated.
Okay.
This is what we call the returns, more or less. So on that schedule, we'll have a list of all the employees of the organization. Then the payee tax deduct from every single one of them. So that will now be submitted. That's what we call filing. Filing is more or less submission of these returns to Lagos State and every other state in the Federation. But you know, for Lagos State, filing is electronic. So the deadline is 31st of January to file the payee returns. So we're talking about individual taxes here, not the corporate taxes.
Okay.
The corporate organization is just an agent of the state, mandated by law to account for the taxes that they have deducted from their employees' emoluments and remitted to the state. So that's basically what filing of returns is. And we also mentioned annual, so it is done on an annual basis. Yes. So we expect the returns for the emoluments that were paid in 2023 to be filed in 2024. So today is the 25th, so we just have 6 days left for it to be completed. So that's basically what annual filing of returns is, just submission of that schedule. And that schedule is also called Form H1.
So, but you at LIRS have embraced digital platforms for tax filing. Now, what was it like before the advent of e-tax?
Well, it was quite tedious to say. You can imagine, you know, we are more of an African time kind of people. So you can imagine them besieging the tax offices and they head towards this particular period with their discs, with their flashes to ensure that their returns are filed. So it wasn't really convenient for people to have it filed. And what we have on ground now is the issue of convenience, the issue of security. It's very convenient that we know we operate from 8 to 5 o'clock. But this time around, if you decide you want to file your returns 6 a.m., 7 a.m., you can file your returns. If you're a night owl and you decide you want to file your returns at night, you can file your returns at night. And you also have to understand the fact that filing returns is not just for Lagos alone, every state that they're filing. But the thing there is that even if you're in Abuja, filing for your staff in Abuja or filing for your staff in Kano, you can just file for Lagos where you are. If in South Africa and your headquarters is in South Africa, for example, but you have an office here, you can file from South Africa. So the issue is just the convenience. And of course, you know, we're operating an eco-friendly environment, paperless environment, so you don't need to generate papers and keep storage of all these documents. So it's just an easy process.
That question on, you have now embraced digital platforms for filing. Now, you were talking about what it was like before now. What was it like?
Like I mentioned earlier, it was quite tedious, it was inconvenient, and you have to work with the fact that we're open at 8 and we close at 5. That's how it was before. And then, you know, because we embrace African time to an extent, so you can, and we are, you know, you have a situation where people will now besiege our offices towards the end of the time that it's about to close. So you can imagine how inconvenient the rush, and you can imagine
you go to timeline.
Yes, and you can imagine going to an office, you want to have a transaction, and then you meet a queue. there, so it wasn't really convenient. But what we have on ground now is that filing is everywhere. It's going everywhere in the country. But the thing there is, if you have your head office in Abuja, for example, you don't have to send someone down to Lagos to file. You can do it online. You've saved the cost of tickets. You've saved the cost of transportation. And then we know we're operating a paperless environment. Yeah. So it's very, very convenient. You don't have to now start printing, especially for those that have 3,000 staff, and making all these kind of corrections. And even if you have a head office, for example, in South Africa, you don't have to come down. You can do it online from there. So that is the essence of the fact. That's why we have gone electronic. We're no longer into paper filing that obtains in other states.
Interesting stuff. Now, let's talk about the deadline. Tell us about the deadline of filing the tax returns with the LIRS and the process of requesting extensions, if there is any need.
Okay, so, you also mentioned it earlier when you were introducing LIRS to the, on the platform. 31st of January is the deadline.
Okay.
Today is 25th.
We have 6 days to go.
So we have 6 days to go. And we expect that because it's seamless and there's no issue whatsoever, there is no extension that can be granted because we don't have that statutory right or legal obligation to do so. So everyone has to try as much as possible be 100% compliant by the end of this month. We'll have concluded filing of returns. And it's not just the payee that we're filing. We're also filing for direct assessment. This is for the individuals. So their deadline is the 31st of March. They can start filing now. Okay. So when it comes to direct assessment, filing for individuals, it is the employee income, professional income, like profits you generate from business, vocations, trading, and professionals. Professionals in the sense that lawyers, doctors, proprietors of school, whatever income they are earning, they are supposed to declare and file their returns on our platform.
Now, there are some common mistakes we hear of when businesses are making filings. Now, how can they be avoided?
Okay, basically, it's very important that when we're filing the returns, there's a particular template that is used.
Okay.
So you download that template and then you now upload. It's called CSV template. So we're not supposed to upload with Excel or upload with Word. Then we also have a situation where we're supposed to ensure that we use the actual income for those who didn't spend up to a year in employment. So, for example, if you only spend 6 months as a staff of a particular organization and the salary is 1.2, what you indicate when you're filing your returns is 1.2 million, not 2.4. You don't gross it up. Okay. So those are the basic little things that we have to ensure that we don't miss out when we're filing. And then the most important is ensure that the pay ID that is used is the correct pay ID of that staff. So we shouldn't transpose the pay ID for Tolu, for example, and then for Moji. It has to relate to the tax profile of the individual and the NIM profile of the individual, the BVM profile. So everything should align.
That's interesting. But the payment process after filing this with LIRS, how does it work?
Well, we expect all payments should have been done before filing. Because it should have been concluded, yes, because we're expecting that salaries will have been paid in December. So you pay the salaries in December. So definitely by the 10th of January, you should have done your remittance and made all your payments. However, if for any issue, when you're doing your filing, you observe that a mistake has been made. Like I mentioned, we have an e-tax profile for every individual, and LIRS has an e-tax administration system that is completely digital. So you can make your payments on the platform. Just like we have the returns module on the platform where you can file your returns, you can also make your payments on the same platform.
Well, during this period, of course, the taxpayers will require support from the LIRS. So I'm now asking, how can businesses easily reach out in case they need that support so that all of these complications don't come up?
Okay, so like we have our platform, etax.lirs.net. So on that platform, once you sign in, once you're registered, there is a customer service pop-up customer service digital assistant that will that if you ask any questions
you get
online, then we also have our numbers, the customer care numbers that we use, 0700 22 555 477. You can also use those numbers to contact us.
Again, that number, please.
0700
okay.
22 555 477. You can use that number to contact us. Then you can also contact us on Instagram, our Facebook page, and Twitter handles. Then most importantly, for those who are not really that tech savvy, they can walk into any of the tax stations. There are dedicated desks to ensure that we assist more or less our customers. We call them our customers or our partners, to ensure that they file their returns.
Indeed, they say taxpayer is the king. Are we paying the tax? We are the king.
No. We're not the king. Like I said, customers or our partners.
They are the king. Yeah, the taxpayers. Yeah. That's something. We're saying the same thing. Now, let me ask you the big question. What are the penalties for businesses who fail to file their returns on time? Or for those who fail to file at all? What happens to them?
So aggressively asking. Okay, so the most important thing for an employer is for them to understand, first and foremost, when they file, it is easy for their employees to file, especially those employees that only have employment income.
Okay.
So when they file, the employees too can also file and can generate their tax clearance certificates. So when not filed, the worst penalty is your employee suffers for this. And you know, these tax clearance certificates, we use them for those of us that have children in public schools, FX transactions, you want to conclude on your building, you require permits, you want to do registration of your vehicle, you want to run for office, you have a transaction, you want to, for government, and there's some international organizations that will always ask for the level of your tax, your compliance, and even when you want to apply for your visa or what transaction you want to have. So that is the greatest penalty of all to your employees. But aside that, legally, we have under Section 94, 95, 96, there are some sanctions, financial sanctions against those that default. And it can even include conviction, 6 months conviction. Wow. Yes, if taken to court and found guilty of foul of the law. Then you have to also have to recognize that an employer, for example, should actually be focusing on his primary business, time value of money. So you don't need to engage yourself in court action where LRS already has a directorate of lawyers, and that's their KPI, for us to submit the list of defaulters for them to go after. So you don't need all that. So it's better for you to just not run foul of the law and do what you need to do.
Interesting. Following the submission of this annual tax returns by employers, are there additional statutory obligations for businesses or employers within the companies and any deadlines?
Okay, I mentioned that we have the employee payee side and we have the direct assessment side. So the employees, they still have that obligation to file their returns. That is not just the employee income that they've earned, but any other income. Like, for example, with the kind of voice you have, I'm sure you have some MCs, you anchor some, and then probably you are compensated. So that income will also be added to what you've earned under your employee income when you're filing your return.
My personal income.
It is your personal income. It is your personal income. But you know, based on the Constitution, you declare your income.
Okay.
You declare your income. It's very, very important. When you declare your income, you also file, and you must have paid the relevant taxes on that total global income. Okay. So that's why I mentioned, you know, from your vocation, if you're fortunate enough that you hobby where income is coming from that side, looking at you again. So, you know, so income, maybe modeling or anything, there's income coming from there. You have to file income from your vocation. You're a professional, for example, maybe you give some lectures in some establishments, income coming from that, you have to also file. Then probably your business registered, for example, that engages in probably media, advertising and things like that. So the income, so you have to file that too. So it's your global income. That is what is the statutory obligation of an individual, aside from the employee income.
Interesting stuff. Finally, what more do you think Lagosians need to know about all of this? What more do you want to tell Lagosians?
It's a civic obligation, constitutional obligation, and it's very, very important to see what's happening in Lagos State. I'm sure some of us have tuned into the town hall meeting. It's already given a long, how should I put it? You know, when you've not done, you are done with your talking of what you've done within 1 second. You've done a lot. Yes, newspaper today, you can see what they've done, not just in terms of infrastructure, the youths also, the kind of training that they're going through, the loans. So there's so many things, and you know, we're working center, a state that wants to be a mega city, capacity. So there's a need for revenue. Revenue is more or less like the oxygen. That is the state. So that is the only thing that taxes that were paid is the only thing that can help grow. This is the only state I have. I'm not going to Japa. And we have to understand that if you're looking at, if you went to a public school, it's revenue from the taxes that, and even the university I went to is the same thing. So many members of my family. That's just the basic reason why we have to become our future generations that are coming up.
Brilliant. So, thank you so much, Mrs. Mojisola Boyade, Assistant Director Unit at the Lagos Inland Revenue Service. Thank you so much for making. We appreciate your time.